I haven't got time to mark this motherfucker. Here we go again. We can't hear anybody. Nobody can talk to anybody.
You guessed your press points with your two favorite hosts. I'm D and this is Snoop AJ. We're coming at you with Season 5, Episode 19, Simple Sabotage, a practical guide. I don't know what the fuck AJ's talking about, but it better be good. Find us on Instagram and Twitter at @PointsOPressure, babies. Let's get to it.
Well, turn the fucking thing off, you dumbass.
Ooh, so close on that one.
I know, that's all good.
I'm
a little distracted.
Slightly.
Yeah. Snoop AJ, because your boy D is rolling up a ton of joints in studio today.
I finally found something useful for you to fidget with.
We finally found the fidget spinner that I so desperately needed, and it involved, you guessed it, marijuana.
Who would have guessed?
Who would have thought?
Oh, wonderful. Well, how have you been this week?
You know, good. Went to my little brother's ring ceremony for his wedding because they got married a couple months ago, and they didn't do like anything big at the time. So this last weekend they decided to do something, but since I'm the middle child and nobody gives a fuck about me, I wasn't informed. So like on Tuesday, my mom texts me and it's like, were you coming? And I go, to Dad's birthday? No. She's like, let your brother know. And I was like, okay. And
okay, well, I don't know why I'm telling
Friday,
my brother.
Yeah, I was like, okay, I guess I'll let him know as if it's that big of a deal. So Friday hits, and it's the day before whatever the fuck was supposed to happen. And my mom texts me, and she goes, are you sure you can't make it? I know it would mean a lot to him if you could make it for 1 hour. And I was like, to fucking what?
Yeah, why does my little brother care so much about my father's birthday? Like, what the fuck?
She was like, didn't you get an invite? I was like, what invite? And she goes, you didn't receive it? I was like, will you just fucking tell me?
What is it?
You just tell me what the fuck I'm supposed to be going to? So she's like, oh yeah, it's his ring ceremony. And I was like, why has no one told me this? And she goes, you know what? I knew I was forgetting something. And I go, yeah, your middle child, mother. So, so I went for just a little bit yesterday.
Yeah.
I did my 1 hour.
Nice. Community service.
My 1 hour of community service.
Fuck, I have to do 6 hours of community service for my program.
Yeah, sure, for your program.
Yeah.
Criminal-ass piece of shit. He said while he worked on rolling joints.
In a state where it's not.
No, it's totally legal.
I mean, it's completely... Yeah, we're actually filming in L.A.
It's legal to me, so...
Perfect.
And those are the rules.
Yeah, but so are you.
Yeah, it's true. So yeah, you're going to get some...
Ugh, you're going to get a little ASMR.
Little clicky clacks throughout this episode. Sorry about it, but not really all that sorry about it, because this is going to help me out later.
Yeah. And you're good at it, so that's the only reason I'll allow it.
Kind of.
I also just don't know how to do it myself.
It's really not all that hard.
It rarely gets in my teeth.
Rarely?
So, rarely. But that's because I really like sucking hard on them. I like to smoke the entire joint in one breath. The whole thing.
Just
like a cartoon.
Jesus. Exhale for like 2 fucking minutes.
Smoke just starts coming out of my ears.
Yeah, and you can blow it out of your eye holes.
Yeah.
Like milk.
Ugh. No, I can't, actually. Thank Christ I'm not one of those freaks.
Yeah, the people like that are weird.
Yeah, they really are.
It's going to be this whole episode. This is going to be like the cigar thing again.
I should really... Oh, no, those papers are bigger. So I have some cigarette rolling papers from World War II that were rationed, but they were never actually sent out. And I'm sure there's no chemicals on the papers. I'm sure it's fine.
Yeah, can't imagine.
They're smaller than those. Oh yeah, and they have the German cross embossed on them because they were Nazi rolling papers.
Jesus, of course.
So I think protest...
They're actually really fucking cool, if we're being honest.
Yeah, in protest against the Nazis, we should roll a joint out of their rolling papers.
Yeah, but it has to be weed that we get from someone that's Jewish.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I can figure that out.
At least 2%.
Perfect. Hey, if there's anybody who's Jewish and has a weed hookup, hit me up.
At least 2% Jewish. That's all we require to piss off the Germans.
Oh, yeah. I actually was learning about those laws, like the race laws, because I'm working on a project regarding the events and interviews with people who survived the Holocaust.
Oh, okay.
So I was looking into, like, the race laws that they had, because originally it was like, I'm not going to remember it now, but it's like, if one of your parents is Jewish, you're Jewish, but if they're not Jewish, but both of their grandparents are Jewish, you know,
Just
it's
like the
that
weird legality with
yeah,
it.
the weird legitimacy that they tried to create through the laws. So that's super cool. I actually finished one of the 6 parts of that project, so coming soon. So yeah, today we're going to be talking about something I talked about last week. You were talking about the Swedish Schindler, right? Mm-hmm. And I talked about the OSS and their Simple Sabotage book. So I showed up to my parents' house a couple of days ago, and my mother was like, I really liked when you talked about that. Like, I want to know more about, like, maybe people who have used that information, or like how it was actually used during the war, and like more information on that.
It's like actually creating inconveniences to slow down the production and movement of the entire thing.
Yeah. So I looked into it, and like I had thought, it's basically impossible, because the whole idea was the sabotage was so simple that you could just be a conscientious objector and you can get away with this sabotage and you're never going to get caught, because it's made to look like normal wear and tear or an industrial accident or things like that. So basically impossible. So instead, I'm going to talk about the OSS a little bit. This is not like a deep dive into the OSS, but enough. And then I went through...
Reminder, the OSS is...
Office of Strategic Services.
There you go.
It was formed in June 13th, 1942 in the U.S.
Just as a reminder, because I know I mentioned it last week. I just wanted to make sure that everybody...
Yeah. For you. You wanted to make sure you remembered it.
I knew what the OSS was.
Yeah, okay. Sure.
Quick reminder on what happened during World War II real quick.
Oh, yeah, just the whole thing?
Yeah, just a quick rundown of Hibbler? Whoever that guy was.
Randolph Hibbler?
Whoever that guy is that you have so many, like...
Paintings of.
Paintings and
Pictures.
Rule 34 paintings of.
I don't know what Rule 34 is, and if you're like me, you should Google it. Rule 34 Hibbler.
Hibbler. 2 B's.
Yeah, you gotta make sure. But the B's aren't consecutive.
Hibblerstein.
Oh, no. Hibblurg.
Hibblurg. Jesus Christ.
So, yeah, let's talk about that, because I think it's interesting. Because, you know, there's always been spies. There's always been, like, intelligence gathering. World War I has some really interesting spy warfare. Crinkle, crinkle.
Sorry.
That's real loud. Holy shit.
You're gonna have to run the condenser before you put everything together.
That's like that's louder than it is in real life.
Yeah.
But it's really interesting because it's always been going on. But this is really the time period where it got formalized. Like, technology was there, the need for it is there. I love it. I love that.
This thing's so loud. Fuck.
It is. It's okay.
It's not gonna come up. I can almost promise it won't.
What?
The sound of it.
Oh, it will. I can hear it.
Yeah, I know you can, but your condenser will probably filter.
All right, we'll see.
We'll find out.
Yeah, we'll find out. Well, you'll find out because I don't re-listen to these after I edit them.
Someone will. Won't be either of us.
Comment on our most instant recent gram if you can hear it. All right, so basically World War II is happening, and the U.S. is horrible with their intel compared to the rest of the world. We're still running World War I, which is like 3 people sending, sending letters. Like, it's horrible. Like, U.S. intelligence was ad hoc based, so it's just as needed. Every, branch of the military was doing their own, so it was redundant. They were repeating, often butting heads on their intelligence gathering, because they're all doing the same. They're all trying to do the same job without communication. Mm-hmm. So, this dude, where is it? Oh, I'm jumping ahead a little bit. But so pretty much the OSS was in charge of espionage, propaganda, and subversion during World War II. So obviously we were allies with the UK, and they were kind of, hey, we need help, and you guys aren't going to join the war for a while. I mean, they don't know that, but basically this guy from MI6 came over, and his name was William Stevenson. He was a British intelligence officer, and he went to FDR and was basically like, you guys have terrible intelligence. Like, you guys are terrible at this. So, let me help you. FDR was like, yeah, let's set this up. We need this to create this, basically MI6, but for the US, which MI6 is the British intelligence agency.
It's like the FBI of Britain, right?
Kinda, yeah. Yeah, it's just that kind of... It's intelligence gathering. That's the important thing to remember.
Okay.
But, like, the FBI is more...
so more like the CIA.
Yeah, more like the CIA.
Okay.
But I think MI6 does both, where it's both local... I don't know much about MI6. But, so FDR goes to this guy named William Donovan and says, all right, make a plan for this agency. So he writes up a plan... And FDR is like, cool, let's do it. You're going to be set up for it, but it's not going to be, like, super official. Yet. So, figure this shit out. And they start setting up spy networks all over Europe and Northern Africa. You are distracting the fuck out of me.
Oh, God.
Oh, no. Yeah, so they start setting up spy networks. Everything's based, like, the majority of the intel they were getting was from the UK, because it was basically MI6, like that's it. It was MI6 for a while, and then they started setting up their networks, learning from other agencies and setting up their cool shit. At their peak, they had 24,000 employees, I guess.
Okay.
So it got pretty big, and they started setting up the coolest thing, I think, that they did is they started setting up training centers and, like, military camps all across. They went into Canada, they had some in Europe, mostly in the US, of course. And what they would do is they would fly out members of resistance groups, local indigenous groups from different countries,
and slaughter them. No.
yeah. No.
What?
They would train them.
That's a surprise.
Weirdly enough. And because then they're like, oh, well, we don't like the current government of this place, so we'll just get the rebels and train them, and then the rebels will just, fuck them over. Which, at this time period, that was good. Later on, during the Cold War, they did this, and it caused a bunch of genocides.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah, in fact, they had an operation called, I think it was Operation Dixie, where the OSS essentially trained a bunch of people in this little-known radical political group called Mao's Red Army.
Oh my God.
Prior to the revolution.
Jesus.
Like, we had a direct hand in Mao Zedong's, like, rise to power.
Yeah.
Who we then became enemies with less than 10 years later.
Jesus Christ.
I love it. They were also involved with the Viet Minh, who, if you're not familiar with that, that's the group of Ho Chi Minh, the Vietnamese communist socialist.
Jesus.
Yeah, I love it, because at this point, I mean, we were pretty friendly with the Soviets, so communism wasn't this big, scary buzzword yet, which is just great. It really outlines how fucking stupid everything is. Like, how created everything is. So, I just thought that was interesting, that they had a hand in training these groups that would become America's enemy,
Goddamn.
10 years later.
Which it surprises me, but it doesn't at the same time.
Yeah, exactly. To me, it kind of makes sense.
Oh, God.
So they start getting... Oh, another very interesting to me, because I'm of the belief that the Cold War started much earlier than anybody will acknowledge. I've talked about it briefly before. I found some more evidence of that.
Oh.
During the 1944, so before the end of the war, the OSS started procuring ciphers and intel from Finland, from the Finns, against the Soviets. So we started cracking their codes and allies' codes before the end of the war. We started gathering intel on them.
Oh. Huh.
So it's like the writing was already on the wall. People already saw...
Yeah, they were already beginning their distrust of Soviets.
So it's... I just thought that was really interesting. Also, when you think of, pre-Cold War and Cold War spy agencies, you think of James Bond-esque gadgets. At least I do, because that's the only part that's cool.
Yeah.
And they made a ton. The OSS, this was like the first time a good amount of government money, especially in the US, was spent on making these spy gadgets. So they created like silenced weapons and like the Sten. I think the Sten was made from them. You know the Sten machine gun? It has the clip that goes sideways.
Oh, okay.
And you hold it and you shoot. Yeah, the whole idea behind that is you could make it from pretty common
like
community items.
Pipes and...
Yeah, but when you break it apart, it just looks like you're holding pipes and like machinery components. So if you're a factory worker, it just looks like you just had some in your pocket when you're going home, and it fits all sorts of different... I think it was 9mm magazines. I'm not 100% sure because I didn't look into the Sten.
Makes sense because it would be like a smaller. You would want it to still be compact, but large enough,
but
that
usable.
It can fuck people up.
Yeah. So it was really cool. They tried to make guns like that where they're concealable, easy to break down, easy to put back together, reliable, and machine guns. Because that was the thing to cause an ambush. You got to shoot real fast.
Yeah.
Some other cool things they made were hidden explosives that looked like coal. So if you just had a piece of coal in your pocket and you throw it onto a train car when nobody's watching, like into the coal chute or the coal carrying car, there's a good chance somebody will shovel it into the coal power for the steam engine and blow up the boiler, which would completely decommission that entire train.
Jesus Christ. You know what I just realized?
What?
This is the long-awaited and promised ASMR episode.
Oh, shit, you're right. Damn it. I was going to retire on that.
Nope.
You're a bastard. They also did a lot of stuff with, well, not with the Red Cross, but kind of taking advantage of the Red Cross.
Yeah.
Because POW camps, you were allowed to send your people care packages, and they were through the Red Cross.
So there's nothing... more ethical in a war scenario than taking advantage of the safety that a hospice unit has.
Hospice?
Red Cross. I'd say, like, not hospice, but like, well, yeah, I would still say hospice. When they're providing food, water.
Hospice is end-of-life care.
Well, regardless.
Yeah,
medicine and shit. Humanitarian approach. Yeah.
Yeah. So what they would do is...
God, nothing more American than...
They would...
sneaking that bullshit.
Oh, of course.
Right?
They would provide their POWs with cards, like playing cards. That was a super common item. But they had hidden maps on them. So based on the camp where you were being kept, it would give you a map to where you could escape, get over the border, and then contact the U.S. and then get taken out. Huh. They would, and then, to help find your way, they would also give you extra buttons that would pop open and show a compass. They'd have a compass underneath it. I also saw this unrelated, different group made this. In fact, I think it was MI6 that produced this. There are certain buttons that if you take one off and set it down, and then you take another one off and put it on top of it, because they're kind of cupped, it creates a compass.
Oh, yeah, I've seen that.
Cool shit like that is what they would make.
Yeah, it was the buttons.
Yeah.
That's like...
Super cool shit like
crazy.
And then, you know, they made, like, tasteless poison tablets. Pretty common. They made the first camera the size of a matchbox. Which is pretty good.
Jesus.
My favorite invention was cigarettes that were laced with THC to induce chattiness, to get the boys to start chatting. Like, you give it to a military officer and they'd feel real good and maybe slip you some secrets.
That's it. I'm joining the military.
Yeah. No, you got to join the military on the other side and then get caught.
Yeah, I'm joining. No, I'm not joining the Russian military. No fucking.
No.
Thanks. That is
You don't want to die?
Nope. No.
Probably their biggest contribution, though, was small, compact, and hideable radios, so you could communicate. And they would give them to resistance groups, so that they could be up to date and they could coordinate. So, like, there's all these shows where there's about the resistance. Like, there's one, what the fuck is it? It's called Allo Allo. And it's stupid. I do not suggest you watch it.
It's based on
But I love it.
the U2 song. Hello, hello.
Oh, God, no.
Yeah.
Never.
The world's best song.
It's actually based on resistance groups. So
And the world's best artist of all time.
it's basically a guy who owns a pub.
Uh-huh.
And he is basically forced into working for the resistance while very actively having to serve the... Oh, no, he's French. Did I say what he was? He's French. He owns a
You
pub.
just said the resistance. Sorry.
He's being contacted by different members of the resistance all the time. He doesn't speak any other language but French. Also, the show does the best thing where they portray different languages just by the accent,
Just
but
with
they're
the
all speaking in
accent.
English. And I
So
love that
all
shit.
American fucking war
They're
movies.
Yankees. Yeah, exactly. And yeah, it basically, the point I'm trying to get to is it's either his mother or his mother-in-law is bedridden in the attic bedroom, and that's where he hides his radio. He like pushes down on the bed, and it's like a Murphy bed, and it comes up, and there's a radio hidden under there, and every time he launches it up, she freaks out.
There's a radio, and for some reason, a secretary.
Yeah, just typing.
A scantily clad secretary.
Type. Yeah. And so they did a ton of shit with hidden radios, because that was the best way to communicate during that time. And get actual news that wasn't propaganda. Well, not as propaganda-y.
Yeah. Get news from their preferred source of propaganda.
Yeah, exactly.
How I like it.
Perfect. American. Bleeding. I bleed red, white, and blue. It's a serious medical condition.
No.
They also
God, no.
created a bunch of like ways to wiretap, and they created fake ID cards and money ration cards. And cool enough, there was this one dude, I don't remember his name. He invented this type of oxygen rebreather, and he went to the Navy and said, "You can stay below for so much longer with this, because you don't need these huge tanks and, you know, all this stuff." And they were like, "No."
I wish that he was a Soviet spy, and he's like, try it.
I dare you.
Trust me. Everyone try it right now. You can
Get the president in here.
If you hold your breath for 20 minutes, it still works. You're not passing out. You're actually just feeling the effects of how efficient this is.
That's normal. It's because it's too much oxygen, which is good for you.
Try it, General.
Yeah. No, and so he was turned away from them, and then he went to the OSS and said, "Hey, I invented this thing," and he showed it off at a hotel pool. And the people...
He showed it off at OSS Con.
Yeah, pretty much.
He had a booth.
It was the hotel after OSS Con, where the real work gets done.
Yeah, it was the after party.
In the bathroom with the holes in between the stalls. Just the 1940s American way.
It was the after party where he found a young Gorbachev and proposed his idea. Jesus Christ.
Yeah, so it was... So they picked it up, and they actually started, like, a branch of the OSS that went into, like, aquatic landing and diving. And they also did a lot with, like, limpet mines and timed explosives, all sorts of cool shit for the time period. And, yeah, they had a ton of training camps where we'll see some familiar names soon. And I'll also call out a previous episode.
Ooh, and
Very
I'm not
good.
going to have to do it? Oh, my God.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what episode it is, so you'll still have to do it. But
I'll remember somehow.
I hope
don't
so.
know. I'm in this chair, so I'll remember.
Yeah. So to kind of clear up the first section of this podcast, to kind of finish it off, I went into and found notable members, notable to me. If I recognized a name, I put it down, of the OSS. Because they had a lot of people. Now, first one, Moberg. Have you ever heard of Moberg?
No.
So he was I think he was Jewish American, polyglot, spoke a bunch of languages.
Is that what that's called?
Yeah. And that's where you I think it's 3 or more. I don't know.
Polyglot?
Polyglot, yeah.
Weird.
So he was sent to investigate the Germans' atomic weapon program. So he actually made contact with, like, these big German scientists.
Gerber.
And
He
basically...
met with Gerber scientists.
And the U.S. government basically relied on him to understand how far they were in creating nukes. Pretty big job. He was also a member of the Boston Red Sox. That's how most people know Moberg. He was a Red Sox guy. Ooh, that's beautiful.
AJ recently bought a cigarette case with a pinup on the front and a lighter on the side. And that is why I'm rolling joints today.
Hell yeah.
Is to fill this, like, fucking fancy little cigarette case with
Now you got to do the other side.
joints. Yeah, that's the plan.
Hell yeah. So, I don't know if you know this, but basically this lady was the real reason that French cuisine came over to the U.S. and became more popular.
Okay.
There had been other pushes decades and hundreds of years before, but she really made it very accessible to the modern wife, because those were the people who were doing the cooking at this time period. And her name is Julia Child. She worked directly under Donovan for a while. She was a top secret researcher. She actually helped with the invention of a shark repellent, because sharks kept swimming into the mines that they were putting down. And she helped invent the shark repellent that is still used to this day to make sharks not go near our mines.
Okay, my guess is this is not the Julia Childs that everyone knows of. It's the same one?
Julia Child.
What?
The famous... she came
Yeah.
home. So during the war, she spent a lot of time in Asia. And then towards the end of the war, she spent a lot of time in France, where she met her husband. And she fell in love with French food, so she came back and wrote a ton of cookbooks
Incorporating
about those
7 cups of wine into...
Exactly.
Oh, okay.
Because based
Makes
on
sense.
she found her husband,
She didn't
who
have
was
to
a
worry
GI,
about PTSD because she was
Yeah.
drunk all the time.
and she brought over a bunch of French recipes. I was like, what the fuck? Yeah, this is the Julia Child.
Jesus, it's crazy.
Like, pretty fancy if you're, know who that is, I guess.
And if you don't, go look up one of her fucking, like, just one of her old recipe videos.
She changed a lot of, like, cuisine culture in America.
It was going down a few cups of rum.
That's exactly her.
Yep.
And then
It's 100. I shit you not. That is exactly what she sounds like. She
It
sounds
is.
like she's speaking with like a New England accent with marbles in her mouth.
yeah.
Sweet. Fucking amazing food.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah. just the best. She's great.
Oh yeah,
National
fantastic.
treasure.
Another guy, I only recognize this name because I looked up mid-century boxers and wrestlers for the Nat Arno episode. Jumpin' Joe Savoldi. He was a wrestler. He played a bunch of different sports as well. He was recruited to be an Italian agent because he had a fantastic recall of Mussolini's compound because he had been there.
Is he one that fought Nat Arno?
No.
Oh, damn.
No, it
by
was
the
just
way,
in the time period.
Fighting Jew of Newark, season 2, episode like 5 or something. Amazing episode.
That's a fun one.
It's a very good episode, and borderline applies to today.
No, it does.
Uncomfortably
It's straight
applies
up-
to today.
Yeah.
Check it out.
It's a good one. So this guy, he was just an Italian boxer who happened to be very familiar with the geography of Italy and specifically Mussolini's compound. He was sent on a bunch of missions in Italy. Now, I found a great quote specifically about Camp X, which was one of the main camps. It was the Assassination and Elimination OSS camp. And it was called, and I quote, "The School of Mayhem and Murder" by George Hunter White. Do you remember George Hunter White?
Yes.
So George...
I so heavily recognize the name.
Yeah.
That was this season.
I think so. So he was trained in this school in the 50s after the OSS had been dissolved and split up into two groups, of which the bigger one is the CIA. He was trained in the 50s at this camp, where he, about a decade later, set up and renovated a bunch of hotels, or not hotels, like apartments, and then hired sex workers to dose up other agents and other people, and then he got to watch them.
Just utilize those fucking US.
Yeah, Operation
LSD.
Midnight Climax.
Oh my god, dude.
Whichever episode that was.
That one, fucking episode, like 7 or some shit.
I don't know, but
This season though.
this
Check it
season,
out.
yeah,
I think it's the not MK Ultra.
that is correct. And I just thought it was crazy that I came across
So
him
many
here.
that are so familiar.
Yeah,
This
weirdly
is,
enough.
This is our filler. This is our filler Simpsons episode where we're just doing callbacks to every other previous episode.
Everything's a reference to another episode. We will get to the point, probably next season, where there's nothing we haven't talked about that isn't related to something else.
Yeah, God damn.
That's how history works.
We're doing it.
We're getting there.
Tying it all together. The conclusion.
I also wanted to point out that at Camp X, two of the instructors are known as William Fairbairn and Eric Sykes. You may not be familiar with those names, but I am, because they invented the Fairbairn-Sykes fighting knife, which I really want to get an original. They're not super common nowadays, but basically they designed a knife. They were like expert knife fighters. Mm-hmm. And they designed the best knife for self-defense and just killing people, like combo. Both of those things. And it's the Fairbairn-Sykes knife.
Sick. I like
So I want some. I want one. An original. If anybody knows, has a hookup, hit me up. I'll pay a little bit.
If anybody's grandpa has one in their attic,
Yeah, pretty much.
reach out.
But now I'm going to go on. I downloaded, here I'm going to show you, the Simple Sabotage Field Manual that I spoke about last week. Mm-hmm. And I went through and I highlighted a bunch of spots that I want to talk about. Because here's the practical part. I'm going to teach you how to perform simple sabotage. All right? And
You didn't even have to go to your local library.
yeah,
for
you
this.
don't.
We'll do it for you.
And so I need you to make a promise that you will only use this information in an ethical way. Like, I don't know. Do you have any examples of how this information could be used?
I don't know. You're actually currently studying ethics, so why don't you fill me in on some ethics based on the great ethical observations your fellow classmates were making, like
Two people actually
like an
made,
ethical morality. Like, is it ethical to sleep at your boyfriend's or your dad's house?
That was seriously... Oh my god, it pissed me off.
I guess it just depends on which one you're going to sleep with.
Is it ethical to sleep with your father?
That's what they.
That's the question.
That's what they were trying to get to.
Oh, Jesus.
Yeah, some fucking weird fellow classmates, dude.
Oh, yeah. So, you know, I
Somebody answer this hypothetical ethical
Yeah.
question for me, please.
So, you know, I'm not going to tell you to go out and punch a cop, but, like, you'd be a lot cooler if you did.
They kept.
So, this is the first page. January 17th, 1944. The Simple Sabotage Field Manual, Strategic Services Provisional, is published for the information and guidance of all concerned and will be used as a basic doctrine for strategic services training for this subject. Strategery. The contents of this manual should be carefully controlled and should not be allowed to come into unauthorized hands. Yeah. The instructions may be placed...
You done fucked up.
The instructions may be placed in separate pamphlets or leaflets according to categories of operations, but should be distributed with care and not broadly.
He read on a fucking podcast. What are we?
International podcast.
Number 300 in global reach in history?
I don't know.
Correct?
I have no idea.
I don't know.
They don't show us until we're in 100. Let's see. Where was I? Yeah. They should be used as a basis of radio broadcasts only for local and special cases as directed by the theater commander. D, as the theater commander, do I have your permission to distribute?
I really wish that I had the some of the sleeper agent fucking radio sounds that you had played before. Just fucking play one of those.
Boop, beep.
Go out, my babies.
Isn't that the time is nigh? So basically, it has a little introduction where...
Burn down your local police station.
Yes, please. It basically points out who this is for and what it is for.
Chaos.
I don't like you. And so it points out the difference that sabotage can be anything from highly technical coup into just to innumerable simple acts which the ordinary individual citizen saboteur can perform.
I'd like to call them minor acts of almost terrorism.
Exactly. Where destruction is involved, the weapons of the citizen saboteur are salt, nails, candles, pebbles, thread, or any other materials he might normally be expected to possess as a householder or as a worker.
Man, we really got to start naming our episodes after the show, because minor acts of almost terrorism would be a way better title.
We really need to. Well, you did that to yourself with the intro.
Yeah, that's fair. I didn't know that. I didn't know this was part of the episode.
His arsenal is the kitchen shelf, the trash pile, his own usual kit of tools and supplies. The targets of his sabotage are usually objects to which he has normal and inconspicuous access to in everyday life. A second type of simple sabotage requires no destructive tools whatsoever and produces physical damage, if any, by highly indirect means. It is based on universal opportunities to make faulty decisions, to adopt a non-cooperative attitude, and to induce others to follow suit. I love that idea, where it's just, you don't even have to use tools.
Actually, realistically speaking, the best way to apply this is to embrace the ending of anti-union busting. Like, fucking help with creating unions by using these tactics on the people that are trying to bust and break up.
Exactly. You got it. You got it.
Like,
I thought it would come later than this, but you got it. Yeah, that's the entire idea, is that you can use these to further your goals in your workplace.
Yeah.
Very common. I use some of this shit all the time. And
on
me.
See, and it's so manipulative, but it works.
It works really well. I got a pay raise, and he doesn't even get paid.
I don't even know what he said.
He's rolling joints for me.
Damn it.
Fuck. So simple sabotage is often an act which the citizen performs according to his own initiative and inclination. Acts of destruction do not bring them any personal gain. That's another thing. Like, this isn't for you.
Oh, it is now.
It is now. No, it's like there's a further goal.
Or greater than oneself.
Yeah, exactly. Let's see. Then I there were a couple pages where I didn't put anything in because it was boring. What? There's no highlights. Where did they go?
God, what have you done?
I'm really confused because they're not here anymore. Hold on. I can do this without it. Fuck. Where did they go?
Pause.
No, I'm not going to pause.
Pause and finish your fucking notes.
I did it, I swear. Okay, specific suggestions for simple sabotage. Basically, they say we can't outline everything, but let's give you some places to start. So they start with buildings. Warehouses, barracks, offices, hotels, factory buildings. Perfect targets. Because, generally, in most of those buildings, members of the public are allowed. Most of those places. And they say, it's beautiful. Mm-hmm. They say fire is the best weapon in this case. Sorry. Whenever possible, arrange to have the fire start whenever you've gone away. Use a candle and paper. Basically, they say, get a candle, wrap the base in paper. And even better if you can make that paper have some kind of flammable liquid on it. And then, coming off of that paper, you have rope or string or more paper that leads to a pile of oily rags or, something that it's going to extend. So, like, if you have a wastebasket full of paper, dump it out in the corner and light a candle and create this fuse.
Oops, I accidentally filled my pockets of gasoline, which had holes in them, and I let the gasoline right to where I flicked my cigarette.
Crazy.
Where I just left barrels of oil.
That's the idea.
Oops.
It's you creating this fuse that can look like an accident.
Oh, I love it.
And yeah, no, it's fantastic. They say, the paper should be 3 or 4 centimeters wide. You wrap it around the base 2 or 3 times, and then you twist more paper and rope, and you just create this nest that will ignite once the paper starts, This chain of getting bigger and bigger, going to wherever and whatever you're going to blow up. Best to do in a cramped space, use a corner, blah, blah, blah. Let's see, what else is it? Oh, they go into, like, celluloid, but we don't. That's not as common nowadays. Because there's a lot that's no longer pertinent, but some that is.
So many of these, for some reason, utilize radium-infused glass.
Yeah, I don't know why.
Good luck finding it now.
They said another fuse that you can make is you get a string, you rub some grease on the bottom, and then right where the grease meets the dry string, you put a little gunpowder, because everybody just has access to that. And I'm like, what the fuck?
Yeah, I keep it alongside my flintlock rifle.
Yeah, exactly. This is America.
Right.
And then they said, if you don't have gunpowder or grease, like, just lay out matches. Like, lay out a bunch so that all the heads are touching. Lay the string across the top, and then light it. And then, on your own time, figure out how fast that specific piece of string burns. So you can time it so that you have all this flammable shit over the match heads towards the end of the match heads. But the match heads will, like, light up. Because the string will just, like, smolder along. And then when it hits the match heads, the match head will burst up and create this chain down all the match heads. And then you lead it to your trash pile or whatever you're burning, and you'll burn down the place.
Is this before they came up with, like, fire starting forensics?
It was not very advanced.
It sounds like it's a long time before, like, fireman forensics.
Yeah.
I don't know what the fuck that's called. Like arson forensics?
Yeah, arson investigation.
Yeah.
Like, there wasn't
back
a
then,
time.
They're like, fuck it, just lay out, like, dominoes of matches. They'll never know. And now it's like, it appears he laid out 7 miles of domino matchsticks, which he then caused to fucking get.
The thing is, they didn't have cameras, so you can lay these out, and even if they find the matches, they're not going to know who did it.
It's just so funny.
It's great, actually. I love it. Because they go into, like, how to figure out what kind of fuse string to use. But basically, the entire idea is make sure it goes off after you're at home.
Mm-hmm.
Idiot.
Make sure it's like a delayed charge, basically.
Yeah. They also say, like, you know what? In basements where a lot of trash is kept, especially if you're, like, mechanic or working with machinery, you're going to get rags with oil. And rags with oil can spontaneously combust if they're not stored properly. So just start throwing your shit in the basement in a corner somewhere. That's their entire thing. Because eventually, it will blow up. And if you're
static
there,
charge will ignite it at some point.
no, it oxidizes.
Oh yeah. It's like that's why you don't pour gasoline over a pile of fucking wood. By the way, everyone, don't pour gallons of gasoline over piles of wood, because the gasoline oxidizes and it will fucking explode in your face and kill you. So don't do that.
Are you talking about when the wood's on fire?
No. It's when
Just in
like
general?
you just have like let's say you were cutting down a bunch of trees and you're just fucking throwing like the spare shit on to a big pile, then you stand on top of it and pour gasoline all over from the top. It creates pockets of fucking gaseous air that'll just fucking explode
Pop
outwards.
out.
Yeah. That's why you see all those videos of dipshit rednecks that blow shit up in their backyard just trying to start a fire. So don't do that.
They also say, get a job as a night janitor so that you can assemble all the trash where it normally goes, but don't take it out, and then flick your cigarette into it, and then let it burn for a while, and then report it.
Oops,
And so specifically, don't report it too soon.
Yeah. Sorry, I was busy smoking.
On the other side of the building.
I was on my smoke break. I couldn't say anything till I got back.
They also make a fantastic point about how it's all about cleanliness. You know, if you're the janitor, or, you know, one of your jobs has something to do with hygiene, do it poorly. Janitors should be inefficient in cleaning, because enough dirt and trash can accumulate in an otherwise fireproof building will become inflammable. Basically, the more trash you got around, the more likely a fire is to start. And they know that, so if you were to start that fire, your secret's safe.
Yeah.
And then there's a section on where illuminating gas is used in a room. We don't fucking use illuminating gas. Lanterns. They start going into, I love this one, because we're basically running the same automatic sprinkler systems in industrial buildings that we were during this time period.
Really?
Yeah, they're pretty much the same. There are a couple that are updated, like in server rooms, they use oxygen displacement, but generally the water sprinklers are the exact same. So they say, hey, if your warehouse has a lot of stock in it, or if you know there's a lot of, like, shit being stored here, like supplies, guns, weapons, ammunition, stuff like that, just light a match and put it under the sprinkler head, or hit the sprinkler head. Like with a hammer, just tap it.
Yeah.
That'll be enough to break it, and it'll...
Jesus Christ.
So just do that and then run away. That's the plan. Or if you work there...
Like in 40 years, I'll just give those rusty weapons to Afghanistan anyway. So.
Yeah, exactly. You'll be fine. Let's see. They also say, forget to provide paper in toilets, but provide them with thick paper. Or, things that shouldn't be flushed.
Oh,
so that they wipe with just like with a magazine or whatever, and then it clogs it.
Fucking cut a paper towel roll in half.
Well, this is this is the weird thing that I don't know what they're talking about. Like, this is old enough now that there's some disconnect here. It says, put tightly rolled paper, hair, or other obstructions in the wash closet. Hair? Is somebody gonna wipe with hair?
Ew.
Like, why is that a suggestion?
What the fuck were you doing in the 40s?
What is that a suggestion for?
America, God.
But the cool thing...
This is the darkest part of our history we've unveiled yet.
Wiping with hair?
Ew. You just walk in and, like,
I like
you
to
go back in time and just... just leaned over.
No, I personally like to use
what are you doing?
the bow to a cello to wipe.
God.
But something that would still definitely work is saturate a sponge with a thick starch or sugar solution. Squeeze it tightly into a ball and wrap it with string, then dry. Remove the string when it's dry. It'll be in a tight, hard ball. Flush it down the toilet, because as it gets wet, it'll reconstitute and start blocking the sewage system. So next time you're at, like, a large banker's building, use the bathroom and drop one of these sponges in there.
Yeah, just take a handful of baby wipes.
Yep.
Flush those bad boys down the toilet. God, everybody's always like, yeah, I was born in the wrong generation. I was born in the wrong decade. And they're like, actually, I wish I lived in the 20s. Hell no. You and I were
Fuck
born in
no.
the wrong decade, because we weren't able to do and get away with domestic terrorism in the 40s.
You can definitely get away with domestic terrorism because most bathrooms don't have a camera in them still.
I don't know.
And that's why I said most. It is a one-party consent state.
Oh, God, true. Jesus.
Let's see, what else was it? Oh, I like this one because it's not very practical anymore. So back in the day, buildings were designed to incorporate as much sunlight as possible so that you never turned on your lights until it started getting dark.
I think to be honest with you, in a lot of, like, expensive buildings, they also kind of utilize that. But it's not because of light. They're not like, oh, it'll, like, help with electricity. It's mainly that they're like, oh, it looks so much like,
Yeah.
Look at all the sunlight we've utilized.
Well, it swapped from being we should do this to save money on electricity and lights to this looks nice. This is a symbol of wealth.
Yeah, fuck the
thing.
corporations that are doing it to show off instead of for sustainability purposes.
So if you know a company that does it to show off, what you can do is untwist a light bulb, put a coin in the socket, which will still probably shock you. Well, no, it's off, so it won't.
Just a
Duh.
little.
So you put a coin in there, and then you retwist the bulb, and then when they turn on the light, when it starts getting dark, the fuse will blow, and the light bulb might blow up. I don't fucking know.
We'll find out.
Depends on the light. Yeah, we'll see. I'm going down to Salt Lake for some reason soon.
We'll test it.
They also say, shove a coin between the fuses. I'm not gonna fucking touch a fuse with a piece of metal.
Put a fork into a fucking outlet. It's for the greater good.
I do like this one. It's jam bits of paper, wood, hairpins, or anything else that will fit into the locks of all unguarded entrances to public buildings. I fucking love that idea. You just shove, like, a little bit of wood in there, because then they're going to shove the key and be like, oh, it's stuck. Force it in, and the lock is completely fucked.
Jesus.
I really like that idea. Puts some little spit wads in the lock. Let's see. This one's more of an industrial... This section's on... Okay, you're working an industrial job. Let your tools get dull. Like, let other people's tools get dull. Use a file incorrectly. So, like, very rapidly, very high pressure, going both directions will fuck it up. If you're, like, grinding something with a file, when you're trying to get the shit off of it to, like, clean it, just smack it on a piece of metal. And, like, every once in a while, one of those will snap, and you have to get a new file. It's going to cost a little bit more money. That's going to slow down production.
That's a good point.
Use heavy pressure when drilling so that you can heat up and snap the drill bits. I like that one. They talk about power-driven tools like pneumatic drills and riveters. That's not as pertinent anymore. This is my favorite part because it still is. We still use oil for lubrication of machines. They say put metal dust, filings, fine sand, ground glass, or emery dust into your oil or on oil contact points. That's in machines, in vehicles, everything. Because it will shred up and destroy anything it touches. Like, pistons in cars and... Ugh. Horrible. So don't do that to your own vehicle. But, industrial machines, just throw a little pocket sand in there.
Yeah, your HOA president's home.
Yeah, exactly.
Her fucking Mary Kay mobile.
Oh.
Her doTERRA car.
Yeah, doTERRA car. They're doTERRA Tesla.
Yeah.
Poke a pencil in any filter system. In any filter anywhere, any filter mesh. Just use a pencil and poke a hole through it. You'll fuck up whatever machine it is eventually.
Yeah, it won't filter anymore.
Exactly. And the whole point of these is you're not going to get results right away. You're going to have plenty of time that nobody will even remember that you were involved.
It's all about the long con.
Exactly. If you cannot get to the lubrication system or filter directly, dilute it. 1 pint to 20 gallons with almost any liquid. Sulfuric acid, varnish, whatever the fuck water glass is, linseed oil are especially effective. So just dilute out wherever oil is, and it won't work anymore.
Makes sense.
Use thin oil where heavy oil should be used, and vice versa. Clog. Basically, the whole idea is clog everything. Twist combings of human hair, pieces of string, dead. What's the hair?
How much fucking human hair was lying around
in the 40s?
What the fuck?
They just had human hair everywhere. It was a hellscape. But yeah, they basically just say if you have access to a line, put hair in it.
1940s barbers don't want you to know about this one trick. God, what the fuck is up with hair?
They also say put some hard grains like rice or wheat into water cooling systems because eventually they'll swell and just clog it. And then whatever the water cooling system is, fucking
It just gets,
blows up.
Yeah,
Just gets destroyed. They say if there's something really, really, really hot, pour really, really, really cold water on it.
Oh, God, dude.
And do that as much as you can. As often as you can. It'll just crack shit. Air cooling systems, pocket sand that shit. Turns out pocket sand is the best thing if you want to sabotage a bunch of shit. They talk about fuel tanks, how just throw sawdust in gas tanks when you see them. Have a pocket full of sawdust and throw that shit in everything. Sugar. Although at this time it wasn't that suggested because of rationing, but if you got sugar, throw it in a gas tank. Everybody knows that one.
Don't give it to someone in need. Put it in a gas tank.
Exactly. Honey and molasses are just as good as sugar. I love this because it gets kind of repetitive at this point where it's just put it in a gas tank. Whatever it is, throw it in your gas tank. Not yours, somebody else's. Oh, here we go. Water, urine, wine, or any other simple liquid you can get in reasonably large quantities. They only added the wine in there because they were distributing this to the French Resistance. Dilute your gasoline. Yeah, 1 pint to 20 gallons of gasoline will make it so that gas shouldn't combust in an engine anymore. It also says, you know what? You should use salt water, though, because it'll also corrode the engine from the inside. That's even better. That's a good one. You know,
Styrofoam.
I've seen that most enforcement vehicles that are black and white and have lights on the top, they do not have a lock on their fuel tank. Moving on. Diesel engines are finicky already. Just use different oil than what you need. Use low flash point oil, and it'll fuck it up. This one's cool. This is where I got the wax idea earlier.
Yeah.
So, fuel lines often pass over exhaust pipes at some point in the machine. So what you do is, when the machine's cold, poke a hole in the fuel line above the exhaust tank, above the exhaust pipe. Then plug that hole with wax that you keep in your pocket with your sawdust and sand. Then, as the vehicle is being driven, it heats up, the wax melts, and then gasoline dumps on this hot exhaust system and ignites. And that's how you burn somebody in their own vehicle.
Jesus Christ.
And make it look like a mistake. Because they're not going to be able to find a pinpoint of wax. They'll just say, oh, the fuel line split.
Jesus. That's fucking wild.
That's a good one. I like that one. For no reason. They also say if, you know how rapidly gas evaporates. You know, you open a tank on one side of the room, very quickly you'll smell it. Mm-hmm. So, but it has to get up to a certain percentage. I learned this at the Fire Academy. Every gas has to mix with oxygen at a certain concentration before it will ignite. If it's too little, it won't ignite. If it's too much, it won't ignite. So what you do is you light a candle in that corner, and open a bunch of fuel tanks on that corner, and then close the door on your way out of work when you're clocking out. And then, in a couple hours, that concentration will hit, and the room will explode.
Jesus.
Everything's with a candle. I love it. Candles are so underutilized. Let's see. They go into electric motors, which are these new fandangled things. Basically the same thing. Like, overload it, throw a penny in it, and you'll be fine. Let's see. I skipped a bunch here. Because it's basically... Oh, this one was... Put a piece of sandpaper the size of a postage stamp in a place where it will touch the rotating brushes on an engine. It will be destroyed and will result in a fire.
Goddamn.
Sandpaper's great. Anything that should be smooth, you should use sandpaper on. Let's see. They go into air-cooled transformers, which I don't think we use a lot anymore. Throw sand into turbines, all that fun stuff. Boilers, we don't use them anymore, but too much water or shitty fire. Work slow. So we're going to get to... They go into, like, production, agriculture, how to sabotage railways, and shit like this. And I'm going to mention the railway sabotage, because while that isn't as common here, it is common in other parts of the world. And it also just kind of applies to any kind of travel. It very much applies to airplanes. Make train travel as inconvenient as possible for enemy personnel. Make mistakes in issuing train tickets. Leave portions of the journey uncovered by the ticket book. Issue 2 tickets for the same seat to create an interesting argument.
God.
When the train is arriving soon, so write out the tickets as slow as possible so that they can say last call and you're still writing the ticket that they already paid for. You give it to them and say, sorry, you missed your train.
Yeah. Whoopsie daisy.
Sorry. Make life as uncomfortable as possible for the passengers. Make sure the food is especially bad. Go and, when in trains they after you're gone, they come and collect your ticket. Like they walk along and get your ticket. Make sure you go get your ticket after midnight. Go get everybody's ticket. So you have to wake everybody up. And I love that. Make sure...
Interrupt those REM cycles, baby.
And handle your baggage as noisily as possible during the night. Make sure that the luggage of enemy personnel is mislaid. Switch the address labels on the luggage so it gets sent to the wrong place. There's a lot that goes into, like, the switches on train systems. Who gives a shit about that? That doesn't happen anymore. Not here. I love this one. Change signposts at intersections. The enemy is going to be... Because this is targeted towards people in occupied areas, they're not going to be as familiar. They're going to be relying on street signs during this time period. Now we have GPS, so that doesn't really work anymore. But I just love the idea that you're driving along and you're like, Hans, which way? To the opera house. And you're like, oh, it's that road. And you go down that road, and then you're in the middle of nowhere. Which brings us to the second part, which is remove warning signs from sharp curves.
Fucking Bugs Bunny was the, true advocate.
Oh, yeah.
Of this entire book.
I love the idea that, you're... There's a warning sign that says sharp curve ahead, and you take it down and you replace it with a 60 kilometers an hour sign, so they speed up and just go right off the cliff.
God damn it.
And, this shit isn't... there's no way to track how successful this was. This one's great. When somebody asks for directions, give them the wrong information. Especially when it's an enemy convoy. Yeah, no shit.
God damn it.
They also say that, if you see a pothole in the middle of the night, go dig it out. Make it worse.
Yeah.
It's fantastic. Throw broken glass, nails, and sharp rocks into the roads. If you're a bus driver, so very niche bit of advice, but if you're a bus driver, stop after the stop that they wanted to get off at. Say, oh, sorry, missed it. And just keep driving. They're not going to do anything.
Jesus.
Let's see. Unattended cars. If you're walking along and there's a car unlocked and there's some fucking asshole and you know whose car it is, just jam a little bit of wood into their ignition. That, like, into the ignition where the key goes. That'll fuck them up.
I mean, you could do it into their, like, keyhole.
Yeah. That's what I mean.
Christ.
Into the keyhole. Loosen the fuses, because usually they're in the compartment. And put dirt in the spark plugs. And bruise any wiring insulation. So if you see a wire that's insulated, pinch it. It'll weaken that.
Fucking work for 4 hours on an unattended vehicle. No biggie.
Cut the brake lines. No, I made that one up. That would be a little obvious. But they do say make pinholes in brake lines or gas lines or anything like that, so they don't notice.
Yeah.
Exactly.
That's what happened to you.
Yeah. Goddamn.
I've read this
It's the
book.
second time my brake line has broken.
Oh, that's so odd.
Yeah, it's so weird.
It's so strange.
It's in the same spot. It's just a little hole.
Yeah.
And it looks like 2 P's made by a pin. Over lubricate shit or put not enough lubricant on everything that moves. Throw sand. If it moves, throw sand in it. There's a lot of shit if you're a mechanic, how to sabotage a repaired tire. So you actually repair it, but it's going to break in 4 days or a week.
Jesus.
And it's going to be worse. Unrepairable at that point. Boat sabotage. Basically, lie about how bad the weather is. That's a really big one. Demagnetize the compass. I love that idea.
Jesus. Fucking opposite poles. I like it.
They go into telephone sabotage and it doesn't really apply anymore. But the ones that do, I remember these ones luckily because they're not highlighted anymore for some fucking reason. Cut people off on accident, like hang up on people. I'm so sorry. Drop the call. And call enemy headquarters every day once. You call them and say, "Oh, sorry, wrong number." Click. And just that little bit of sabotage, that's
just enough.
Their line being held up that much longer. Make false reports. This was a lot easier before caller ID and GPS, but they were like, "Oh, just call in fake fires and air raids. Just say you found something that looks like a bomb and throw a cardboard box across town somewhere."
Jesus Christ.
So they have to spend all that time. They go into how to, like, disassemble the phone and, like, remove the diaphragm so you can't talk through it and then put it back together so that nobody knows how to fix that until you get an engineer in and it's expensive. Basically, the whole thing is be inconvenient and annoying as fuck.
Yeah.
Like, it's obvious somebody took the diaphragm out of the phone. But how do you prove that? Like, that's the whole idea. Like, it's okay if you're obvious. Like, it's obvious sabotage, but try to not be. Because they'll crack down. Oh, there's a whole section on telegraph. How to sabotage a telegraph system. If you...
One extra beep.
Yeah. Punch out the telegraph operator. Now, this is where it gets pertinent to today. And it's been going for a little long. Sorry. I just, I want to give you a good, practical guide. So this is where it gets interesting. This completely holds up. It's under the organizations and conferences section. Insist on doing everything through channels. Never permit shortcuts to be taken in order to expedite decisions. Make speeches. Talk as frequently as possible and at great length. Illustrate your points by long anecdotes and accounts of personal experiences. Never hesitate to make a few appropriate patriotic comments.
Jesus.
I have worked with people who do this shit because they think they're going to get a promotion. Who do everything in this book because they think they're going to be a better worker.
Jesus Christ.
When possible, refer all matters to committees for further study and consideration. Attempt to make the committees as large as possible, never less than 5.
God.
Because then that's cutting into their work, too. And I get a drink. Oh, I love this one. I do this one at my work all the time. Well, no, I don't have to. Everybody else does this shit. Bring up irrelevant issues as frequently as possible.
God.
Haggle over the precise wordings of communications, minutes, and resolutions. I love that, especially with like, well, in the policy it specifically says this. Are you interpreting that like this? That dumb shit. Advocate caution, be reasonable, and urge your fellow employees to be reasonable and avoid haste, because you might get embarrassed later. Shortcuts lead to long delays.
Yeah, take your time.
Yeah. I just love these ones. From or to your managers or supervisors, demand written orders. Ask, yeah,
Jesus.
ask endless questions. Engage in long correspondences about your orders. Misunderstand your assignments. Do everything possible to delay the delivery of assignments. If you're in a supply position, don't order new materials until you're basically out. So I'm so sorry, I put that in on the order. I don't know why it didn't come through. I love this one because it's not as pertinent, but order high quality materials that are hard to get. If you don't get them, argue about the fact that inferior materials will mean inferior work. This one's good. In making work assignments, always sign out the unimportant jobs first. So if you're, assigning roles and tasks and things, do the dumb shit first and give them to the best people, the best workers. And then the most important shit needs to go to the worst, stupidest workers.
At the end of their easy stuff.
Exactly.
So that nobody gets to it. It slows down all of production.
Yeah. And they say to compliment the shitty workers and endlessly complain about the most efficient workers. Just to piss them off.
Jesus Christ.
Insist on perfect work in like if you're reviewing products, like if you're creating something, if there's a small flaw, send it back and have them redo it. But if there's a big flaw but it's not super visible to somebody who doesn't know what they're looking at, send it through. So you demand perfection on some stupid things that don't matter, and
Jesus
I love
Christ.
it. I think it's so smart. Like, all of this makes sense when you think about it. This one's great. Send, like, supplies, or if you're communicating with people, send it to the wrong person. Send everything to the wrong person. When training new workers, give them the wrong information. Teach them how to do everything incorrectly. Hold meetings when there is more important work to be done. My job does this every time perfectly.
It's because the people you work for are stupid as fuck.
Well, yeah, there's that. A lot of this goes into, like, carbon copies and how to fuck up carbon copies, but nobody uses carbon copies anymore. But I like this. Just misfile shit on accident every once in a while. That makes sense, except we all use computers. So I guess misplace your file.
Yeah, right.
There you go.
Just don't organize your files.
Yeah, don't organize your files at all. Spread disturbing rumors that sound, and it says, that sound like inside dope. Which is just like, spread rumors that sound like they're legit. Yeah, it's the scoop. Work slowly. Increase the number of movements necessary on your job. That sounds familiar. Create as many interruptions to your work as you can.
Jesus.
Even if you understand the language, pretend to not understand the language.
God damn it.
Pretend that the instructions are difficult to understand. Ask them repeatedly to repeat themselves. Pretend you're anxious to do your work, and pester your manager with as many questions as possible.
Dope.
I love it.
I'm all about this.
Do your work poorly and blame it on poor tools or materials. Like, sorry, I wish I could do more work, but this computer is shit. I think I need a new one. There was an employee who did that. I swear to God, they actually were fine, and they just made up the whole lie about their computer not working, so they didn't have to do as much.
It's amazing.
Because there were multiple days, like at least one a week, where my computer's not working. I can't do anything.
Boy, this thing's running slow.
Yeah, they won't connect. I don't know why. Oh, I love it. Fill out forms wrong. And that's a fun one. Let's see. I think that's just about. I think right here, direct quotes. General devices for lowering morale and creating confusion. These are pertinent to everybody. Give lengthy and incomprehensible explanations when questioned. Report imaginary spies or danger. Act stupid.
Jesus.
Be as irritable and quarrelsome as possible without getting in trouble. Misunderstand all sorts of regulations concerning such matters such as, I don't know, rationing, supplies, transportation, anything. Just misunderstand anything you're told. You are going to be the stupidest, most annoying person. And that's how you
Easy.
sabotage anything. Bring an entire system crumbling to a halt.
Take notes, everybody.
I hope you were all taking notes, because there will be a test on this.
Yeah, next week.
I still don't understand why it saved my highlights to the 5th page.
Because your
6th page.
Your iPad is sentient, and it was like, you know what might slow down production for this.
Fuck, you're right.
This episode.
No!
If I just don't save his highlights, and he has to read the whole book again on air.
No, it actually shortened it, because I skipped a lot more.
Oh, I see.
Because I didn't want to go through the paragraphs that had just like a great thing in the middle of it.
Explanation.
So yeah, be stupid. Have pocket sand.
Yeah.
And be creative. And don't get caught. You didn't hear it from me. If anybody asks, you didn't hear it from me.
And if you did, don't do
Exactly.
that.
Don't do that.
Easy. Fixed.
No.
You're cured. All right, you got Patreon?
Oh, I do. I need to take a nap after this. Just kidding. I gotta make a PowerPoint.
No, you're gonna help me on the fucking basement.
Oh yeah, that too. So the chair people of the PP, and everybody on Patreon, thank you guys for letting us keep doing this. Yeah, I said that right. Keeping the lights on around the studio. We got Mini D and Nordic Thunder.
Thank
you guys so much. Then we got Abby, AJ's Third Nut, Haley, Lindo, Toddle Waddle, Casey McFacey, Dark Runner, D's Nuts, and Lara Revo. Thank you guys so much for supporting us and all that fun stuff.
Yeah, we appreciate your support.
We wouldn't be doing it if you weren't helping.
You guys have definitely helped us with growth in ways that I didn't really know were possible.
PP.
Yeah, definitely. So, if you ever have any articles, books, movies, music, whatever, if you have anything to recommend, by all means, pass it along. Reach out to us on Instagram and Twitter at @PointSoPressure. Or if you just need somebody to talk to, by all means, we're here. And if you don't want to talk to just me, then I'll text AJ that a message was sent to the thing, and he'll take care of it. So, yeah, always feel free to reach out, and we will catch you guys next Monday.